Keighley, just as a brief introduction, small town, roughly 15 miles west of Leeds, and for this project, this presentation, I'm going to talk about the work I did with them. Why me? Well, I'm most interested in the social impact of design. My background is as a graphic designer, but increasingly I'm becoming more and more focused upon the potential and the possibility for transformation and for activism. Why Ignite? Well, Ignite facilitated the kind of project that I was looking for at the time, something very small, something I thought would be quite manageable and achievable in a relatively short period of time. Why Keighley and District Volunteer Centre? Well, I'd been volunteering with them for about 9 months at the time before I started the project, and I was really interested in the kind of relationship that the Ignite funding would allow me to have with them as an institution or an organisation. I can't forget to put my timer on. At the outset, I was most interested in these three things. I wanted to explore ideas and research around service design, the potential for design to facilitate relationships and develop ways in which people could interact with organisations and institutions. I wanted to look at research that had been done into the potential for transformation within service design. I wanted to take that research out of an academic context and apply it to a live situation, and I was most interested, I think, in the notion of the hyperlocal. I wanted something that was, Keighley is not Leeds, Keighley is not Bradford. Keighley has its own unique issues that the Volunteer Centre must deal with, and because I live there, I was volunteering there, I passed through every morning to get to the train station, I wanted to do something that engaged that community specifically. From the outset, there were some key questions I had to think about in terms of establishing my relationship. I've done a lot of research with organisations in the past where, as an academic or even as a designer, to approach those institutions comes with some baggage. We had to figure each other out. We had to find a way that they understood what I wanted and I could understand what they needed. To begin with, I used some service design methods to map their customer journeys, the things that they currently do and how I could help them. We plotted all kinds of ways in which individuals, volunteers, use the Volunteer Centre and who those audiences might be and what their engagement is. And from that, meeting with the kind of three key managers of the Volunteer Centre, we came up with this proposition. We wanted to deliver a kind of unique sense of presence and a signature for the Volunteer Centre itself. They're under pressure, they're under financial pressure. Other charities within the town and regionally have a better presence, have a greater presence, are more widely recognised. So there was one real kind of key strand of the thinking that underpinned everything that we did together, which was to try and identify real stories that would have real impact, to find a sense of place for that small office and the people who work there and give them a voice. Try and find, using storytelling to develop them as a brand, fundamentally. We wanted to be clear about what the Volunteer Centre was and to try and make sure that people in the town and around recognised that. And so to do that, we were looking at ideas of short film making and the redevelopment of their website. It's too much for you to read there. I undertook 2 workshops that used participatory methods to speak to 2 sets of volunteers to find out what their stories were, the stories that took them from their lives before volunteering right up to date. I wanted to give those volunteers a voice, and to do that I just used some research into branding actually that looked at words of emotional attachment, positive and negative, and created workshops that got supported volunteers in this sense to answer a series of questions that took them through this map of their lives up until the point of reaching volunteering, writing postcards to their past and future selves to describe what it was like to be a volunteer. And these are the results of that workshop. These are the words that they used to describe themselves. And this is a summary of the kind of key findings. they wanted to be considered useful. That's telling me I've got a minute left. Volunteer befrienders, similarly, worked with them. These were the results. This is how they described themselves. Again, they wanted to be considered to be useful, and volunteering gave them that. So from that, we developed a complete redesign of the user experience of the website, and began to work with student interns to implement the design of the website and to begin to produce the short films. This is the website design. It's about to go live, so we're ready to go with that. That's Colleen. She's a star. She sat with us for 20-30 minutes to produce a 6-minute short video about her life through volunteering and the changes it's made to her. She visits old ladies in Keighley who can't leave their homes and don't have much family. On reflection, I think there's some issues about the size and the shape of the deliverables and the workload, and the use of student interns. It's quite difficult sometimes to get students to focus entirely on what you wanted them to do, and the relationship between myself and the volunteer centre was an ongoing question. And then finally, what's next? Well, out of the whole experience of it, I applied through the university, through Spark, to Unlimited, who are a social enterprise funding body, an organisational body, to develop the storytelling aspect through video, and received a slightly larger grant to develop a project which is going to map the entire range, we hope, of volunteering activities in Keighley, and to take volunteering in its broadest sense. The whole idea of the Selfless Act is something that we want to tell those stories that are unique to this town, and through that give a greater sort of sense of presence for volunteering in Keighley. And hopefully this project will do that. And that's me done.